Now, Hong Kong has accused Cardinal Joseph Zen and Cantonese pop singer Dennis Ho of colluding with foreign powers under the country's national security law. Both of them were arrested on Wednesday night and later released on bail after being questioned for hours. Two others were also arrested, later released along with the Cardinal and Dennis. All four were trustees of a now disbanded fund that helped those detained during the massive democracy protests that swept Hong Kong 3 years ago. Its operational details, including information about its donors, beneficiaries, were handed over to the police as well. Joseph's arrest prompted condemnation from the United States. The Vatican too reacted with concern, saying that they were following the developments closely. Zen is a former bishop of Hong Kong, one of the most senior Catholic clerics in the city. He has been critical of the Vatican's decision to reach a compromise with China over the appointment of bishops on the mainland and an advocate of Hong Kong's democracy movement. Ho is a popular local vocalist and an outspoken active advocate for LGBTQ+ rights. Beijing in 2020 imposed the National Security Law in Hong Kong. As of March 31st, the security law has crushed dissent in the once outspoken business hub and can carry up to life in jail. 175 people had been arrested under the legislation, which criminalizes activities that Beijing deems as secession or collusion with foreign powers. Now, amongst them, 110 have been charged. Many of the defendants have been denied bail by the courts, including prominent media tycoon Jimmy Lai. And for more on this, joining us live on this broadcast is our correspondent Richard Kimber from Hong Kong. Richard, thank you for joining us. Now, to begin with, what can you tell us about the developments, these latest arrests under the controversial national security law?
Well, as you say, these arrests come in relation to this fund that was set up at the height of the anti-government protest movement in 2019. This fund, called the Humanitarian Relief Fund, was specifically an effort to try and raise money for protesters, many of whom were young, some teenagers and students who were facing prosecution and heavy legal bills as a result of being arrested during those protests. A lot of money was raised in a short space of time to help those protesters, not just with financial aid towards their legal bills, but also towards medical bills, as some had become injured during clashes with police. Now, the trustees of that fund included, of course, Cardinal Joseph Zen, the most senior Catholic Church figure in Hong Kong, and Denise Ho, as you mentioned, a well-known Cantonese pop singer, also high-profile barristers in Hong Kong, and one former lawmaker who's actually already in jail on other protest charges. So high-profile figures made an effort to try and promote this fund and set it up. And Cardinal Joseph Zen, the 90-year-old Catholic Church leader here, was really the face of that campaign. He was the face and voice of campaign videos calling for fundraising, and police really want to get to the bottom of where all this money was coming from. Specifically, they want to investigate whether or not some of it was coming from overseas, and if so, whether or not some of that money was potentially coming from state-sanctioned bodies overseas in an effort to undermine what authorities here see as Hong Kong's authority over its own territory.
Right. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the Vatican has expressed concern as well. What is next for those arrested under this law? What options does this leave them with?
Well, they've all been released on bail after some questioning last night, but it's really not clear how far this investigation will proceed. We've seen similar investigations being levied against other organisations in Hong Kong, whether it's the Alliance for the Support of Democracy that organised the widespread June 4th Tiananmen Square protest vigils. Also, similar charges being levied against the Apple Daily newspaper company Next Digital. Of course, the face of that was Jimmy Lai. In all cases, police are trying to probe where money has come from that has supported these organisations. And really what's happened in Hong Kong over the last couple of years is any such organisation has either folded of its own accord or been forced to fold by these types of police probes over concerns of exactly this, of prosecution against not only its trustees but also all of its donors, and all the efforts that these types of groups have made to try and protect the identities of their donors is now being questioned, because there are concerns that anybody who's contributed to these types of funds could be implicated in what is an increasingly wide-ranging police investigation into the way that funds have been brought into Hong Kong to support what are seen as anti-government or anti-national security interests.
Right. All right, Richard, thank you so much for bringing us all the latest on this. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.